My name is Etienne Abelin. I'm a classically trained musician, and I also care about society. And I always wanted to bridge these two and bring them together. And around 2002, 2003, I learned about El Sistema. And El Sistema is a Venezuelan social musical initiative, arguably the world's most important one now. I learned about it through press. I also learned about it through one of my mentors, conductor Claudio Abado, who was in Venezuela, saw it and started talking about it in Europe and brought musicians over who I met. But then years later, through a connection in the hub, Zurich, with the hub in Vienna, I was able to start getting engaged, and we started a little startup, Super R Swiss, which is Sistema inspired. And from there, I went on to work in Sistema Europe, where I currently work, which is a European network. But I'd like to just go into El Sistema and see what it actually is. What is Venezuela's El Sistema? Who of you have heard of El Sistema already? Good, about a third, great. So here are just a few bullets. It's a program aiming for social development through music. It's open to all from an early age. It's focused on regular and immersive music playing together or singing together, and it uses local community centers to do so. And here, 10 quick facts. It's 40 years old. This week is the 40-year-old celebration. Caracas is holding lots of events. It was founded by Maestro José Antonio Abreu. Here he is now. Here he was a few years ago. And very inspirational leader and several times nominee for the Peace Nobel Prize. It began with 11 young musicians rehearsing in a garage, so it really started as a small social enterprise, and it grew significantly. It was supported by every Venezuelan government since 1975. That's 8 governments. Currently, 400,000 children and adolescents are enrolled in Venezuela in the program. There's plans to extend it to 1 million by 2020. In excess of 2 million Venezuelans went through El Sistema since 1975. Currently, there are 286 nucleos. There are almost 400 youth orchestra and almost 350 youth choirs. Over 100 sistemas in over 60 countries in all continents. This is important. Venezuela runs no sistema outside of Venezuela. It's not a franchise. They are very generous in giving away their know-how and helping everybody who wants to build a sistema. So if you want to build a sistema, they will be very happy to help. Estimated to be about 1 million people, young people in sistemas worldwide currently. Here are a few images. This is actually quite interesting. Of course, when you have so many people playing in orchestras, you need a lot of instruments. And so there's a lot of instrument making workshops now in Venezuela which build these instruments for the program. A lot has been written, lots of books. We're actually going to talk about some controversial ones in the second part. A few thoughts going more deeply into the methodology. The aim is social change, but it is done through the pursuit of musical excellence. And maybe we can have slightly less light on the screen so we can see these slides better. Good, excellent. Just so that you get the impression of what that means. Accessibility is central. The program, excellent, wonderful. The program is free for everybody, and the nucleos, these community centers, are spread throughout the country. How are you doing there with the film in this light? Not good. Okay. That's always the trade-off, isn't it? So these community centers are spread throughout the country, in ways so that as many kids as possible can go and be there. There's special needs program. They're very important. There's a strategic focus on special needs program and prisoners programs. Ah, there we go. That's a compromise. Good. This is the Choir of White Hands. This is kids who are hearing impaired, and they participate in musical activities with movement. Very moving, very, very moving. They start very young, at age 1 or 2. And I was just in Caracas last week, and I saw one of these. It's extremely cute. They often start with cardboard instruments first before they will go on to real instruments. There's a commitment to innovation and learning. Here's a father building a cardboard violin with his son. This is something that strikes Western or European and American musicians often when they go there. There's a lack of fear of failure. There's a different culture surrounding performing this kind of music. Joy is in the center. One of the principles is passion provokes precision. So first is passion, then comes precision, not the other way around. The Nucleo is very important. These are community centers. The kids come every afternoon. They go to school in the morning. They come every afternoon for several hours and spend time there playing orchestras in smaller groups as well. Teaching artists. There's no separation between concert artists and teachers. They're both the same. Which one of the reasons for that is that they start very young being teachers. Here's a little kid. There's peer-to-peer teaching. I was at a rural Nucleo last week, and I asked, who are the teachers here? And 4 adolescents of 14 years old held up their hands. They're the teachers there. And that often happens. The first generation of teachers are the ones who started first, and they teach the next generation. Ensemble learning is at the center. Individual learning comes in from the side, but is not at the center as it is here. So there's a big difference in the approach to the way we learn instruments. Frequency, I said before, very important, many hours a week. Of course, here we cannot do 20 hours a week as they can do there, but we aim throughout Europe to go for a minimum of 5 hours or 6 hours a week. Performances, important community involvement, not only in big events like that, but also parents and community members coming to the Nucleo, cooking and being part of the whole thing. Social cohesion, it's often said Sistema is a project for the poor, and while a large percentage of those served are from poor families, the vertical integration is very important to the Venezuelans, and it is also when it goes outside and expands. Inspired leadership, I look for Jose Antonio Abreu's TED Talk. It will make your day. It is really, really quite something. Another leader is Gustavo Dudamel, one of the world's best conductors these days. He's an alum of El Sistema and, of course, the big idol of everybody in Venezuela. But not to forget all the Nucleo directors, like this gentleman here. Trust the young. You often see young conductors, very young conductors, also a difference to what you see around here. Quickly about the theory of change, I tried to outline something here. This is a draft. The intended impact is social change through a combination of these various elements that we saw. People sometimes criticize the name El Sistema, obviously, it has flaws, but there's also something to it, because it is a system of various elements playing hand in hand. At the center is skill building over many years with many hours per week in the form of a cooperative, social, creative activity together and community involvement. Achieved impact, there's one big study of the Inter-American Development Bank of 2007 which shows that there's a reduction in crime rate and school dropout rate compared to control groups. This was a basis for the investment of $150 extra million to expand the program. There's various evaluations also happening in different countries, and we go into that in just a bit. Expansion of Sistema-inspired programs. Rather early on, there started to be an expansion in Central and South America. And we have a video clip now which shows the expansion into Paraguay. And I'm very happy that we can show that here. And we need a little bit of sound for that. Kan je afhangen? Ja, merci.
Sí, siempre, o sea, cualquier actividad que sea innovadora, creativa, revolucionaria, lógicamente tiene resistencia. Pero en la medida que nosotros fuimos planteando esto, lo hicimos con una apertura, con un arco, digamos, inclusivo, hasta absorber a los contras, volverlos en lucha, puede llegar a cambiar su destino. De 13 años Sonido la Tierra son 18 pueblos, eran unas redes de orquestas y escuelas de música gratuita donde la gente se intercambiaba, se unía. O sea, más allá del concepto de hacer música y crear capital social entre los integrantes de ese grupo, era unir al pueblo, ¿no? Que ya hace 7 años que formamos una escuela de líderes musicales, que en cada región se destacan y van brillando, damos todas las herramientas para que ellos tengan su luz propia. Eso fue disparando y creciendo de una manera vertiginosa, ¿verdad? Somos 178 comunidades, más réplicas que se van dando en el mundo de nuestra fórmula, no el método musical, ¿verdad? Porque ese casi es lo último para nosotros, ¿no? El esquema nos está estructurado. Los problemas de hace 15, 20 años ya son otros, la pobreza extrema, la falta de interés de los niños y la juventud en estudiar, en formarse. Cada vez tienen la cifra más alta de abandono escolar, sobre todo en los sectores rurales. Ya empezamos a usar esta herramienta como para tratar de modificar esa conducta. Como todo proceso que involucra, digamos, gente, movimiento, programa X a desarrollar, llega un momento que hay techos y hay, digamos, bueno, ¿qué hacemos? Llegamos hasta acá. Entonces ahí entra lo que es la innovación. Uno tiene que recrearse. Por ejemplo, nuestro consejo está integrado por banqueros, empresarios exitosos, que siempre tienen así como los ayudan a que los hilos estén interconectados y firmes. Ahora arrancamos un programa nuevo que son esas mismas orquestas, las convertimos en unas orquestas de instrumentos reciclados, hechos de objetos de basura y sobre todo relacionados al agua, y nacen un nuevo programa que se llama H2O Agua Limpia, que es un trabajo de todas estas orquestas de instrumentos reciclados, hacen campañas de sensibilización, trabajando con otras organizaciones para cuidar las cuencas, los ríos, arroyos, lagunas, tajamares. Entonces, se volvió un programa divertido, innovador, nos permite, digamos, ir más allá de la música, más allá de la formación de valores, sino educar ya a la población hacia cuidar el medio ambiente.
Back. So this is a particularly successful program in Paraguay, and one of several. It went from Latin America on to Europe, to Asia and Africa, and just to go into my path, I said before, I was fortunate to help build this organization, Super R Swiss, which was founded in early 2012. It's still very small. It's active in 3 schools. Currently I'm working for Sistema Europe, which is an all-European network. These are the members we have right now. These are the members that we expect to have very soon. In 2013, I helped found the Sistema Europe Youth Orchestra. Our focus is on a high-intensity summer camp, and the goal is to include and inspire all these European Sistema-inspired initiatives. We had it twice now. We had one in 2013 in Vienna and Salzburg, one in Istanbul in 2014, hosted by the local Turkish Sistema. And we had about between 150 and 200 children and 50 teachers this year, which was quite something to manage and very interesting. The next one will be this August in Milano as part of the Expo. Lisbon will be next year, and probably London in 2017. And I'd now like to show a little clip of the Sistema Europe Youth Orchestra from Istanbul this year, last year. So this is the Sistema Europe Youth Orchestra, and the next planning meeting for Milano is this weekend. Very much looking forward to that. We come to something that is very important, critical reflection. It's crucial to evaluate impact for all social enterprises, and it's not done enough. And this is also very important for El Sistema. Now, currently there are two polemic positions of criticism of El Sistema, which I'll go into in just a little bit. I don't think they're particularly helpful at a really healthy and fruitful dimension of critical reflection, but as they're so current and so widely discussed, I will touch on them. One was raised by Gabriela Montero, a Venezuelan pianist who lives in the US. She doesn't think El Sistema, and especially the El Sistema leadership, does enough to stand apart from the current Venezuelan government. And she thinks they should stand up to them more. There's a few answers to that. One is, of course, to remember that Sistema is not a project of this current government. It's been going on through 8 governments. And secondly, but importantly, is that the main funding does come from the government. So before you open your mouth and you say something, you have to be aware what the responsibility is. Of course, this makes for a beautiful moral dilemma, and we could talk about this for a long time. I, for one, if I was responsible for the well-being of 400,000 kids, I would be very careful what to do and not to put them at risk. Thirdly, and I learned that in Caracas last week also, people telling me, a Swiss attaché telling me, the climate in Venezuela is so politicized that he thinks that Abreu and the leadership are actually doing the right thing in focusing on the social and artistic impact of the program and not talk about politics. Number 2 is a book. It's a book by Jeff Baker, a young English scholar. It appeared in Oxford University Press. It's called El Sistema, Orchestrating Venezuela's Youth. That's the cover. It's a very aggressive book. He was in Venezuela in 2010 and 11, and he said he found a secretive organization, a climate of fear, a cult of leadership. He found that people who said that they hated Mr. Abreu, that he was a very divisive figure. He claims that there are mostly middle-class children and adolescents in the program. He says he found financial misconduct, and he doesn't like the orchestra as an agent of social change because he says it's an archetypical disciplinary institution. This has appeared in last fall, and a lot of people have reacted. Also, the New York Times. Here's the review in the New York Times. And in yellow, this little sentence, what is needed, and I totally agree, is a study carried out with dispassionate scholarly rigor, but this is where Mr. Baker falls short in a book that occasionally reads like a vendetta. A few things I would add. There's only anecdotal evidence in the book. He gives blanket grants of anonymity to all informants. So whoever in this huge program in the 40 years who had an axe to grind was able to do that with him and anonymously. So that the program is largely serving children. Good. Seems questionable to a lot of us who have been there, sometimes over many years, because that's not what we saw. But good numbers, real numbers are necessary, and we'll come to that in a moment. The feel of vendetta was already mentioned. Also, the mix of the specific criticism of the program with an ideological background of him being very critical of the orchestra as a tool for social change, which actually is a really important and a crucial thing to discuss. An orchestra can go either way. The way you lead an orchestra and what you do with it is really the important factor in there, I would say. I'm going to skip those and just go to a quote by Eduardo Mendes, the CEO of El Sistema Venezuela, who says that we're open to all criticism and welcome people to come and see for themselves what is happening in Venezuela. Now, this was interesting last week. They do not have to prove anything right now in Venezuela about the program. The program has been around for 40 years. The various governments have trusted the program to do a good job. So when they receive money, they don't have to do evaluations, and they don't use it for evaluations. They use it to enlarge the program and to serve more children. And I think that's a valid opinion. We of course internationally would wish for a few more evaluations also done by them, but they welcome everybody to go and to do so, and people do. A lot of university research teams are knocking on their doors and are very welcome to go there. Also important to remember, El Sistema Venezuela is not the Sistema worldwide. So even if everything was true, which is not that Jeff Baker is claiming, it does not mean that the approach and the methodology is not valid elsewhere. So that's it. Thank you.